Ladies and gentlemen, we're live on Facebook, the Canadian Bowler After Dark. How's everyone doing tonight? Hopefully good.
Oh, good.
Pretty good cast we got tonight. We can see over here. There's one person who, according to Michael Patulli, he gave himself his own start time tonight, so he might be a little late. I don't know how much introduction we need to do tonight because we're all pretty regular here, but I guess the man up in the top left, John Patulli, tell us a little bit about yourself tonight.
I'm Michael Patulli's brother. I lawn bowl for a living.
Perfect. John, welcome to the Canadian Bowler. All right, you guys. How's it going tonight? How's everyone doing?
Good.
Pretty good.
I'm pretty good too, Luke. Thanks for asking.
No problem. Perfect. Well, I don't have any super crazy questions, but let's start it off with a banger here, boys. Since I don't know what the heck I want to talk about tonight, let's just play this by ear. Who's the most underrated player in Canada?
Ooh.
We'll start with you, John.
Underrated. I think I'm going to have to go with Michael Patulli on this one. Michael Patulli's, that's 5 straight years he's made the Canadian national finals, and he's still not getting the respect he deserves there. Not 1, not 2, but 3, not 4, but 5. And he's still technically the Canadian champion this year for the men's Bears since they didn't have a competition. So I guess he just wins by default. So I think I'm going to have to pick Michael on this one.
Perfect. Daryl?
Me? That's a really tough one. Probably because a lot of people are saying that I'm overrating them, right? Or I'm underrating them. With the part of selection, right? I don't know. There's a few. I really like. Well, I guess I'm biased on this one too, but I'll throw out a name. Not necessarily the most underrated, but I think he goes under the radar. Owen Kirby, who I coach. Really, really good player. I think he's up and coming. He's not quite there yet, but he's on the, he's been on the youth and development squads and all that kind of stuff. And I think he's going to be an up and comer, along with some of the other young guys that are just floating under the radar and are probably going to pop on the scene pretty quick.
Michael?
Daryl stole my pick there because Kirby half loaded would 100% be my pick for an underrated player. Try to list some other underrated players. I know. I feel like we're all going to be picking people from our area if we're talking about underrated players. For me, an underrated one would be Kata Watson. I feel like he doesn't get the respect he deserves some days because he's got probably one of the most deadly drives I've ever encountered, and sometimes you can just pull draw shots or clutch shots out of nowhere that you just never expect. So I'd say Kata.
And
I'll go.
John
I'll go.
There in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
He's having a breakout year the last year.
I was gonna go Brandon Watson at the NAC. He played a great lead for Grega in the Bears, so he's steady as a lead. So I'll go with him.
I really did like all your picks there. I thought they were all pretty decent. I never would have thought about Mike, to be completely honest with you, John. Mike is definitely a great player. I've had the opportunity to play with him, and yeah, I think you're right that he's maybe flown a little under the radar for whatever reason, doing as well as you guys have, and Mike. In different situations, I think it has something to do with his delivery. Maybe I'm not entirely sure, but if I had to pick my own underrated player, I don't really know if they're necessarily underrated, but I guess it's someone who I've never really seen make that big splash, kind of because their career got in the way. But I always thought Jake Shuknik was a great player who maybe people might not have thought was right up there with the best of the best. I've been playing with him since I was really young, so I always thought he was someone who maybe didn't get quite as much recognition as they deserved.
I thought Cam was going to throw out Braden Campbell.
Well, yeah, him too. But I mean, he can't pump his tires too much or play with them too much.
That's your competition there, so yeah.
Yeah, competition, teammate. He's everything. So.
I would say who's the most overrated, but I think we're all going to say Cam, so there's no point in bringing that one out.
Cam, what was the score the last time we played each other in singles? Do you remember?
Yeah, 21-0. Yep. Yep.
That was a good game.
Yeah. Like to replay that. I was what, 11?
Is that what you look like there, Cam?
You had another youngster that was playing there that year. He scored like 12 points on me. Patterson or something was his name. But it took me all of 8 ends to mop the floor with you that year.
One of us is still bowling, one of us isn't.
Well, he already scored 14 points against me. You still haven't to this day. You're still waiting to get those 14 points off of me.
That is true, yeah.
Like to this day, one of my favorite things to do is go onto YouTube, and the Bulls Canada made a video that year for the juniors, and it was like an information video, learn how to bowl, whatever you want to call it, but it interviews John with like Backstreet Boys like frosted tips hair, and then it interviews like little 10-year-old Cameron, where he's like the skinniest little kid ever, and he has like a race car hat on, and then like all the main people are very young and very different looking, but then the story of their game where Cameron literally plonks his first bull on the jack, and John throws a drive and kills the end, and then proceeds to beat him 21-0 is probably one of my favorite lawn bowling stories, just because John also kept the scorecard. So to this day, I still have the scorecard in one of my bags at home because John's just that type of guy.
I don't know if you know who it is, Mike, but if you go back and
Casey's question for my interview is the same way I like people. Go ahead, Luke.
If you go back and look at that video, it looks like the social media person named the Backpack Kids playing against Justin Timberlake back then. So that's what's going on there. Mike, you told me you had some hot takes. Let's fire one off real quick.
Well, I didn't really prepare many hot takes. I prepared some memes there, and Daryl obviously sampled one of my memes already. Because I prepared that one. Another good one we have for our dearly departed friend in the bottom left corner. He's not here to defend himself, so I don't feel like we should unleash the one, but we almost have to. But anyways, there we go.
So Mike, give us a little background on that one.
So we're playing provincial singles. Would have been about 6 years ago now, and Alex first game drew Grant Wilkie. So they had a great game. I believe it was like 21-19, 21-20, and Alex lost. And Saskatchewan were double knockout. So he loses his first game, and second game he plays like a guy from his club who's been to nationals a bunch, and he loses to him in another close one. So he's out 2 games straight. He's out before the end of the day on Friday. A guy didn't even show up to the tournament, but he got a bye with the way that the games worked. So Alex was actually eliminated and finished lower than the guy who didn't even show up to the tournament to play a game. So to this day, we still make fun of Alex because he managed to one time finish lower in a tournament than somebody who didn't even show up to the event. So
that's pretty good. I guess just before we go a little bit further here, guys, I hate to do this, but I forgot to just say at the start, remember to like, follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff. There's a comment section under the video. If you're on the Canadian Bowler Facebook page, not in some sort of watch party or share, we'll be able to see those comments. And hopefully some of the guys here today will be able to answer your questions if you have any. And if you aren't able to listen to the rest of the podcast tonight, just remember it's on all major podcast platforms. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. I don't know the other ones, but all of them. Yeah, I guess that's it for those. So I guess moving forward, this past week we had what was it, National Coaches Day or something along those lines. Yeah. What do you guys think coaching means to the sport of lawn bowls? And like, do you think it really helps every player? Do you think it maybe is detrimental to some other players? Like, what do you guys feel about that?
I can kick it off since I'm pretty big into coaching. If nobody knows that, I think coaching is excellent for the sport. It's something that's dearly missing to a lot of players. But I will say that it's not. I won't say that coaching isn't for everybody. I think not every coach is for everybody. So, like, for me, I'm good with a lot of players, but there's the few that I probably won't help that much just because of either my style or what I expect of them or what they expect of me, and it just doesn't meet up together. And there's other issues where parents, other club members, all that kind of stuff can get in the way and make it a really, really bad time for either the player or the coach, and that can not work out in the favor of everybody. So I think overall it's good, but in some cases it can be quite tough.
What about you guys, John and Mike? I'll throw the same question to you guys. I know at the Regina Lawn Bowling Club, you guys and your parents have been pretty heavily involved in coaching. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Go ahead first.
I
You can
personally,
go first, Mike.
Yeah, like I personally think that coaching is a real important part of the game, especially when you're getting started. It's pretty important to have kind of the coaching at the beginning and sort of have someone who knows what they're talking about, I guess, sort of teaching you or leading you the way. Specifically for me, being the youngest of the Patuli family, I kind of benefited from having two coaches and my mom and dad both before me, and then obviously John's a bit of a role model. He never really coached me, kind of just took me out back and beat me with a stick, and eventually I picked up on the game. But yeah, it's super important to have good coaching, and I feel if you have good coaching specifically from the start, you're gonna give yourself a good path to sort of maybe get on that to that elite level or wherever you want to go in bowls if you have a good coaching at the beginning.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that side. At the beginning, especially, you really need to figure out the ins and the outs of the game. Coaching's so important. But my personal opinion is you play more and more, coaching becomes less important, and you more so the mental side that needs to start getting trained once you're playing a little bit longer. So it's not necessarily, oh, I need to deliver the bowl properly here, or my delivery's not perfect, this types of that. You should be able to work that kind of stuff out on your own. But the mental side sometimes needs to get taught once you start playing a little bit more in the competitive side of things.
Yeah, like growing up, I always had my grandmother. Like she was coaching me and helped me through a lot of things. And now, like I've worked with Daryl in plenty of international events, and it's not even so much shot selection with Daryl. It's just someone to talk to for me when things aren't going great. He's just there for me to talk to, and as a reset, and we just keep going.
Yeah, I think what John said there is a really good point that might not necessarily be talked about as much as some of like the normal things like drills and whatnot, but the mental side of the game, I think it really is has to do a lot of it with the game. It's like we're talking about underrated players earlier, and I just know people who might be considered underrated. Their biggest downfall, they might be great players, but sometimes they might lose the mental side of the game, and the whole game just goes away. So I think it really is something that we all need to work on. Like if you want to be an elite player, I think it's something you definitely have to have.
If I'm gonna interject here, put Cam on the spot. We're gonna a little bit of a hot take. Cam, who's the better coach, Daryl or Terry?
I'll go with Daryl because I've had him more. He doesn't care what I say to him. I've really only had Terry once or twice, but I've used Daryl a lot. It's usually not good words I say to him, but
yeah, I don't know if anybody here really has much of an opinion on that other than Cam, but I know just like I had the little bit of coaching I've had from both of them. I don't know if I could pick one over. I guess I'll take the same as Cam's. I think Daryl's a great coach. I'll go with Daryl. I think just knowing that he knows the game in Canada might give him a little bit of an edge over Terry, just on what we're so used to seeing, like the style we play and whatnot. But other than that, I don't have much of an opinion on that one.
You guys are too kind.
Kind of can't go against you. You're here.
I'm not. Right here. Yeah, I can.
I will echo what Luke said there too. I'd agree. I think the best coaches are the people that are got their boots on the ground in the same location as the players, and they're there year round. It's kind of tough in defense of Terry to be on the other side of the world and try and coach people. But I don't think that's a very effective method, in my own personal opinion. It's just too hard. You got to be face to face with the people in order to have the best impact possible.
Yeah, it definitely helps. It definitely helps, and it gives more opportunity to have those face to face meetings when they're in close proximity.
Terry is like his experience on those greens is great though. Like he knows those players ins and outs over there in New Zealand and Australia. He can help you make a game plan against certain players over there. He's been phenomenal since he stepped aboard.
I will say it makes a huge difference when I work with him and other coaches. Me just out there by myself or him just out there by himself, it's not necessarily the most effective because I may be good at something, he may be good at something, and let's say we brought, like Derek Dillon was there the last time, he's good at something. When all three of us or two of us or whatever work together, it makes it a lot easier and a lot better for the players than just one. So yeah, not every coach is for everybody, so having multiple options is really good.
I guess let's just bounce off that thought, guys. John, you said you didn't like the whole distance thing. Cam thought it was working okay. Mike didn't really touch on it too much. But what do you like? We're all either national team or ex-national team players. What do you think Bulls Canada needs to do to have the whole coaching thing be where it needs to be?
I think if they went into more like a regional coaching method, that would be something that could be effective. It's like even having Daryl, say if Daryl's the head coach in Canada, it's going to be tough for him to be working with someone on the other side of the country year round, but you could have different people in different provinces, and Daryl can coach those coaches so that those coaches can then be the face-to-face people with them. So they could have Michael as the head coach of Saskatchewan, and you could have Derek in Alberta and John Seitman in Nova Scotia and so on. Like whoever these coaches are across the country, they could then have basically the blueprint. Daryl comes up with the blueprint and helps those people out. Otherwise, you kind of feel like you're on the lonely island, so to speak, if you don't have a coach that you can really go face to face with throughout the year. And I think that's really what's missing most right now.
So what are you missing out there, Cam? I know you love to practice and you're out there every day. So what are you actually missing?
Just seeing you guys. I don't know. It is different. Like I don't see a coach like you or Terry until we meet up on the team. To me, I've never been one to talk much anyway. But I mean, I don't really know. I think it's more mental than anything out here right now, especially with COVID. You don't get to really play games or anything like that. But like you guys are doing great. You guys all send me messages here and there, so I don't really know how to answer that one.
Fair, totally fair.
Alex, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, you see here, guys, I think that I'm the greatest coach that ever lived, and come to the rec league on Wednesdays, and it'll be a good time.
True story about Alex as a coach, though. This is probably the most hilarious coaching moment I've ever had. So Saskatchewan, back the same year that I actually played Cameron in Nova Scotia, I won the provincials and I beat Alex, but Alex wanted to come out for the under 25. And at that time, Alex and I had never played together. We weren't even really friends. We were more rivals because he'd always beat me and I could never get to nationals. So this was one of the first times I made it. But they made the hilarious decision that Alex was going to be my coach for the tournament to cut down costs. So they said Alex is my head coach over there. And it was just hilarious. And the one match that he actually helped me was against that Carter kid. He had his grandma there, and she was like jumping on the green celebrating every time this kid scored a point. It was driving me absolutely nuts. And Alex pulled me off to the side after one of the ends, and he's like, John, you should be crushing this kid. Just go out there and do what you do. And I don't know if I gave up another point the rest of the match. It was just he knew what he needed to say to me there, and I think that really started to spark one of our friendships. Now 15 years later, he's one of my best friends in the world. So
I had kind of not similar, but when I had won the under 25 nationals in Vancouver, it was kind of funny. Braden Campbell was just sticking around, and I ended up signing him in as my manager for the event. So he was sitting behind all my games, and I remember playing the final. Mike and Braden were just beaking each other at the end while me and Brandon played this intense final game. So it was pretty fun.
I think Alex was actually coaching Grant one year in Saskatchewan, and Grant was way up on me, and I started coming back, and Alex looked at me, he goes, "This isn't happening." And I just looked at him and said, "No, this is gonna happen." And I turned around and beat Grant.
It's a good one. So, go ahead, Daryl.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Luke.
I don't know what. No, you go.
Oh, I was gonna sort of segue into another topic that you guys were, I guess, throwing around before the show, and as something, all you guys, and I guess including myself, we traveled a lot. We've done everything for, I guess, Canada as far as international, national, provincial, all that kind of stuff. And we've traveled with people a lot. So, let me know who was the worst person you've ever roomed with on the road.
Oh boy.
Oh Jesus!
I have a pair. When we were in Wales, it was Mike, Grant, myself, and Braden and Owen, and I had the pleasure of being the old man with the young guys, even though I wasn't that old. But so every morning we had to. Mike, do you remember what time we had to leave for the bus? I know it was like stupid early. It was like 6:30 or 7 a.m.
It was 6:30 or 6:45. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, me and Mike would meet for breakfast at 5 o'clock every morning. Every morning it was like 5 or 5:30. We'd go down, have breakfast at the hotel, and then we'd go. And every morning I would wake these kids up every single morning, and I'd be like, "Okay, guys, it's time to get up. Like, I'm gonna have a shower and go for breakfast." I'd get out of the shower, they're asleep. And I'd be like, "Okay, guys, let's go for breakfast. It's time to go." And they'd be like, "Yep, we're up." And then I'd be like, "All right, guys, I'm going to go down for breakfast." And they're asleep again. And they're like, "Yeah, we're right behind you." And I was like, "Cool." And every single day, me and Mike would finish breakfast, and I'd have to go back up and wake up these guys every single day, to the point where they had to skip breakfast and barely made it to the bus almost every day.
Wow.
I'll go Greg Wilson. That man can snore. all night. But I mean, great guy. But he can snore. He actually supplies the earplugs for you when you room with him.
Yeah, at least he's conscientious.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Sure.
Shout out Greg Wilson. All right.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm gonna jump in here, my favorite and least favorite roommate at the same time would be Mr. Grant Wilkie. Daryl's got a meme that I prepared for this scenario. If you gave me this button here, I would struggle at points if I'm going to room with Grant or if I'm going to sleep on the street. Specifically in the summer, Grant with a combo of me, it's probably a little bit of me contributing too, but we're both pretty stinky guys in the middle of the summer, so I know that it gets pretty bad in our room when we used to room together. But he's a great roommate at the same point where he's fun to be around, but at the same point I remember just the little stuff like that where your room smelled terrible after a week. So
that room always smells terrible.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a good point.
I've been in that room.
It doesn't help that there's like spilled waters and Gatorades all over the place too. It doesn't make it smell any better.
No.
Yes, water and Gatorade.
What about you, John?
I think this one's easy for me. I was surprised Michael didn't pick this one, but it was one of my first roommates on the road would always be my mom, and she's a difficult one to room with for sure. Like God love her, but if Greg snores, I'm sure my mom could rival her on the snoring side of things. She actually has a face mask now to help that in the evening. She kind of looks like Hannibal Lecter when she's wearing her mask at night sleeping, but she can keep you up all night for sure. And I remember we just went to the U.S. Open last year, and she was coming over for the last night. Michael and I roomed each other for like the first 10 days, and she was just coming for the last. And I was dreading it. I was like, oh my goodness, she's going to keep me up all night before we fly out. But she was on the other side of the room, and it actually wasn't too bad that time. But I'd say just strictly for that reason with the snoring, it would be my mom.
Wow.
I'm gonna jump in and change my answer. Actually, Luke would be my least favorite roommate.
What?
Back when Luke was a chubby boy.
Damn.
I can remember he used to have sleep apnea, and there was one specific year in Etobicoke, Toronto, where I'd never actually slept with him before, and I woke up at like 1 a.m. to the sound of him dying every 7 seconds, where he would just
correct me if
stop breathing,
if I'm wrong, but we had like 80 people in our room. I think we had to share a bed too.
Yes, we did.
So it was
And
like
I
Mike
ended
got
up
like the full
sleeping-
force.
But I remember I ended up sleeping that night in between the wall and the bed and using the curtain as my blanket because you were so loud snoring that I like wrapped a pillow between my head and the wall, and that was the only way I could sleep. So you're my least favorite, Luke.
I just remember, speaking of that year, I remember there was one year Mike got this big suite for us because he got some deal, and it was like everybody who showed up to the event didn't have anywhere to stay, so everybody just crashed in our room. And so when the under 25s rolled around, it was me, Mike, Parker Lawrence, Braden Campbell, Jake Nick, Cody Olthoff. I think Dylan Jacobs stayed with us.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was a pretty packed place. So we had people sleeping on the floor, people sleeping under tables, and I think it was the last night we were there. So we obviously all had maybe a little bit of bubbly pop, something to drink, and I guess me and Cody were having a rival snoring match, and throughout the whole night, I don't think anybody slept except for us. I remember hearing that one.
I've actually slept on the floor for Mike one night in Kelowna. He didn't have a spot to stay. He wasn't feeling well. So I gave up my bed and slept on the floor.
That's a good roommate. There you go.
Cameron. Yeah, you'd be probably my favorite roommate. You and your mom were class A people that year. I got like bronchitis the last day that I was in Kelowna, and his mom let me stay with them the last night, and they brought me like Tim Hortons soup. Were like, let me stay in the bed, checked on me. So I had a full service mom, and it was great. It was great.
I was just gonna ask, who do you think would be your favorite roommate you've ever had?
Oh, I'll go with Mike. he always looked after me.
Yeah, Cam and me were pretty good roommates, and even when I've stayed with him at WOBA, Cam's a pretty solid roommate. He has a good time, and he's really good at sleeping on the air mattresses and stuff like that, and keeping pretty clean most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. That one night wasn't good.
I don't know who would be my favorite roommate. I might have to go with like maybe like Bobby Law. I haven't roomed with him a ton, but when we were coming up through like the national program, we always got roomed together just because our ages were similar, and we always had a pretty good time, except for the time in Nova Scotia. He wasn't even my roommate, but he fell asleep and he wasn't in good shape. But it sucked because he made a big mess. That's all I'm gonna say. But if we have to go, I guess this isn't roommates, but my favorite person in Long Bowls to travel with would be Mike, because we snuggle real good on airplanes. Because when Mike tells me, I was like, Mike, I really want the window seat because it's my favorite spot. And Mike goes, no, we don't need to pay. We don't need to pay for seats. There'll be tons left when we can pick our seats tomorrow. And I was like, all right, cool. So we went on literally the same minute it opened, and there was only aisle seats in the middle rows left. So we ended up having to cuddle for 6 hours on an airplane, and it was pretty nice.
It's a good flight.
It wasn't a bad one.
I'd probably say for me, my best roommate is Jurgen Fessler, because he actually doesn't stay in the room. He knows he snores so bad that he actually sleeps out in his van, and he gives you the room to yourself. So it's like the best roommate ever.
Does he still pay for half?
He splits because he gets the breakfast. He comes in and showers. He keeps his stuff there if he needs to, all that. But he doesn't actually sleep in the bed.
Jesus, Jurgen, you can be my roommate anytime.
Yeah.
So Cam, does Greg have his own van?
No. Well,
it's a new strategy. Maybe rent him a van for the next Bulls Canada event, and
we'll just put him on the balcony next time. We just shove him up there. Him and Bazir have been rooming together now, and they both snore, so they make good roommates. I had Robbie last time, and he fell asleep one night, and I went in an hour later, and he was listening to some motivational thing on YouTube, and he was passed out, but he had it on full blast that everyone could hear it.
Sounds like the Rob Law thing to do.
Yeah.
I think my best one's got to be Malcolm White would be my best roommate. The thing that Malcolm always does for you is he's always bringing in a 24-pack of beer for you, so you don't have to worry about getting thirsty in the evenings. Malcolm always has you covered in that regard. So he always is friends with a bunch of people too, so he'll bring back some friends and you'll meet new friends before the end of the week too. So I think it's got to be Malcolm White for me.
I've got another question actually. It's kind of related to this, not quite. It's not roommates, but on one of our shows we were doing I think it was our pet peeves or things that really bug us in bowls. And one of our commenters said, people who don't get the next shout or basically don't get the next round of beers, is there anybody that you have gone out with on a bowls night or something like that that just never wanted to pick up the next round? There's a couple smiles out there, but does anybody want to name names? I don't think so.
I'll say the same thing as I said on. I know what you're talking about there. I'll say the same thing. Every time I've ever gone out with Bulls people, I've always been pretty lucky. Where it's like anyone I've like. I remember I went out with John and Mike last year, and I've always gone out with Cam and these guys, and I've never had any problems. Everyone's always been trying to buy me more beers than I can even buy back. So I've never really been in a position where I've had to deal with that.
Interesting.
Not going to name names, but there's an Ontario bowler that was bad for that.
All right.
I'll second Cam's notion.
I think there's almost an inverse to that too. Yeah, I almost have trouble where finding someone that won't buy me drinks. There's a couple people, especially a couple guys out in BC, you can't even buy them drinks because they're always buying you drinks. You try and get the next round, but they're always getting you them. They're always getting you them. So I think that's one thing about lawn bowling is everyone's so nice and friendly. I haven't really ran into that problem.
I think that happened in Winnipeg with me and Mike. We ordered 8 Jaeger shots, and there was only me and Mike there to do them.
Well, Cam,
something we did.
Cam and Daryl will be able to remember at WOBA last year. People were the night before WOBA. Everyone showed up, and we ended up drinking the bar out of beer because everyone was buying everybody so many drinks, and you couldn't even buy the next round because there was like 18 getting slung your way.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious if there was anything out there because I've had the same experience where most of the time it's hard for you to get yourself in there to actually buy the next round because everybody's just so nice with that.
Yeah, you almost feel bad because you can't get in there.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about, Mike? You look like you got something brewing. I don't know. I don't know either.
What potential conversations should I be brewing? Like
whatever you want. You look like a smart guy over there with your glasses and stuff on.
More like I just have terrible vision and I can't see anything, so I need to wear them.
God, I'm sorry.
I don't know. I guess if we're going for further hot takes, let me just see what's an idea I got for the further hot takes for Mr. Daryl and Mr. Luke over here. I guess who or where, I guess, do you think is the worst, or I guess what is your story from the worst club that you've ever played at? You don't have to name the club, but what is the story that you remember from the worst club that you've ever played at? It could either condition-wise, it's just a story about the weather, whatever it might be. One I can remember is I'll play in a nameless facility. I was at Nationals, and I threw my bowl, and they were not on a level playing green, so I lost sight of my bowl twice while I rolled up the green.
Yikes.
So that's probably one of my worst ones, and it was not an ideal green pace either, so it was quite the day.
Mike, what about Dinky Poo? Or whatever that place was called.
Dinky Poo? Yeah.
Yeah. That place was bad. If you know, you know. That's all I'm going to say.
I played at a club that the last 4 feet was actually just regular lawn sod. And no matter how hard you threw it, you could not make the ditch because it was literally just grass. It wasn't actually a bowling green for the last 2 feet.
I played like that one too, and one time in Manitoba. the last 6 feet they didn't have a green, so they tried to use those like green sheets down for the last 6 feet that you would use when you duff a bowl. So you could try and draw the ditch, and it would be like 30 feet heavy, and it would just stop on there for you. And then the pace of the green to begin with was about 7 seconds as well. So to get to the ditch was impressive. It was almost impossible to do, but.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences. So there's a club that's in my area, in my district, where, like Mike said, you lose the sight of the bowl, and it was a club that was used for a lot of junior stuff. But yeah, it would go along, you'd lose sight of it, it would come back up, you'd lose sight of it, and it would come back up. So you really didn't know what was going on. And I played one in provincials where it was so heavy, and this is to try to get to the Canadians. It was so heavy, I could barely make it down to the ditch, and it was so straight that my bowls wouldn't turn. So it was literally a foot of playing on each side of the jack. It was horrendous. It was awful.
Isn't that called the District 10 draw anyway?
Yeah.
It's like I remember the one year when the juniors were in, I think it was Winnipeg. They redid their ditch boards because they like hosted, but then they had to resod or reseed their whole green. And if I remember correctly, I think it was the year that John and Cam would have played there that year. They had 4 feet of just like tarps covering the edge of the green. And I remember watching it, like I think this might have been the story John was saying, is I remember watching it from the side that someone threw like a full-blown drive and the ball stopped on the green because of these tarps at the end, where the tarps just stopped it from running. So it was crazy to watch.
I guess we can name this club because it's not really relevant anymore, Daryl. But what about the Kitchener Lawn Bowling Club?
It hasn't shut down yet. It's got like two or three members, I think, that are just keeping it going. But it used to be fairly good, and it's just gone downhill. So yeah, it's one of those that the bowls disappear.
Also, I remember the last time I played there. This has got to be going back, I don't know, 7-8 years now. And your bowls would disappear running down the green, and the ditch boards were so bad. I remember one time I was playing with Cody Olthoff there, and he threw a drive, and it jumped over a 6-foot fence at the other end of the green because the ditch boards were so brutal.
Speaking of Ontario tournaments, I had the honor. Malcolm and Trevor had been telling me for years that I needed to come out and play in these tournaments because all the good players were in Ontario, and you would see what good lawn bowling was once we came out to Ontario. So one year in the summer, I agreed that we come out, and there was like a one-day tournament in somewhere within driving distance of Burlington on a Saturday and another one on a Sunday. And with the three of us pull into the first game on Saturday, and that was back when you could give away the jack after every single end. So we were the ones where we drew straws, and Trevor ended up getting the skip. So Malcolm and I were pissed because that was the one person we didn't want skipping. But the first end we play, and we're lying 8, and Trevor's got the last bowl and a nice easy draw for 9, and he purposely shanks it so that we can't get the perfect end. But I kid you not, we give away the jack at the end of the first end, and their vice in a triples match picks the jack up and lobs it to the other end. He doesn't set the mat. It's not the lead. He lobs it to the other end. So I'm looking at Malcolm, and I'm like, what's going on here? This guy's not even the lead. And I was like, you tell these tournaments are so good. So we beat these guys like 39-0. And I was like, this is the tournament you say so good. We ended up winning the tournament, and it was really easy and had a good night. But my goodness, this was my first end in an Ontario tournament about how good these tournaments are going to be. And the people didn't even know the rules. It was pretty funny.
You were playing Luke, weren't you?
Probably.
It could have been actually, yeah.
Does sound like something I would do, but I would have walked down and set the jack. I wouldn't even have thrown it. I guess I'll say it since he's here. We have a late guest. It is not Alex Scott, but Grant Wilkie. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
How's it going, buddy?
Oh, there we are. I'm doing great, boys. It's good to see you all.
You too.
Hold on. See if I can get him in here.
Yeah, throw me in there. I'm going to go to my after dark spot. You guys ready for this?
Can't wait to see the stallion here.
It's just looking pretty dark.
Speaking of the stallion, That could be the next. What are the best nicknames in lawn bowling? It's got to be the Stallion, in my opinion. Like that's a legendary nickname right there.
Must be.
I think Harambe is pretty good.
Harambe. It's like the origin of the names are always the fun part because like we went to nationals in 2011, first time we ever went. We played Dave Hoopy in our first game, and Dave Hoopy, when he throws his bowls, and you guys being from Ontario, Luke and Daryl, I'm sure you've heard this before. He calls them horsies, and he tells his horsies, he's like, "Slow down, horsey, slow down, horsey," and he like tells his bowls to slow down. And at one point, it sounded like he was telling Grant to slow down horsey when like Grant threw his bull. So then I was like, man, we gotta start like calling Grant like the Stallion or something because Hoopy keeps calling him horsey. And so that's literally how the name started. That I was like, Grant, you're the Stallion, and then we just kept throwing in stupid stuff where we're feeding them oats and all these weird things. So
I didn't think we'd start that day with a new nickname for me, that's for sure. John Petula, master of nicknames though.
So Grant, while you just popped in, I want to ask you a question because your name was thrown out quite a bit just recently. Would you say that you are the smelliest roommate that anybody's ever had?
Oh, I'm guessing so. I like Michael Petula probably though too. We're definitely up there. We've had some pretty legendary hotel rooms in our past, playing together so much and traveling around all over the place. Like I don't think our room has ever been the party room, and there's definitely a good reason for that.
Fair enough.
Who do you think is the worst roommate, Grant?
Oh, there's no bad roommates, I don't think. Well, I'm pretty sure my only roommates have been Michael Petuli and Alex Scott, except for the one time when it was me and Daryl and Jake in Arizona the one time. So they're probably my best roommates. But
Well, you gotta pick a worst. You
Well-
don't top that easy.
yeah, okay. Well, I don't know. No, realistically, me and Mike have been together so often. I don't know if he's really. I can call him my worst roommate, but
Daryl, show him the meme.
what's that?
You'll see on the screen here in a second.
Jesus. Maybe I earned that in Montreal. Hey, Mike.
Yes, you certainly earned it in Montreal. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I think me and Mike have definitely had some legendary times. I've probably Alex would be the worst roommate just because there's surprising things that happen. You know, at least Michael is on an even keel all the time. I know what I expect, but with Al, a little bit more of a character. You kind of see more than you before.
Yeah, I was gonna say for shock value, it's got to be one of the Petuli brothers for me for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I eased Mike into the role of roommate though, so he had lots of years of experience to really make sure that he can shock you as much as possible, Luke.
Oh, for sure.
What do you guys
I
think?
thought
Of
Michael would. I
Darks?
thought Michael would talk about. Have you seen my underwear there? Can't believe that the underwear didn't come up yet.
Ugh.
The worst part is no one's ever seen the underwear. That's the worst part.
Still hasn't been found.
No.
Like if we're getting the context here, it's a tradition of my brothers to essentially flash me every morning, or whoever his roommate is every morning. He plays pretty well in the morning when he flashes you, so he walks out of the bathroom and asks if you've seen his underwear. So to this day, most mornings when I go to nationals, I get asked if I've seen my brother's underwear. So it's kind of unfortunate, but it happens every time I go to nationals.
Mike, I think the only thing that could rival the morning ritual was when we used to stun her at 6 a.m.
True.
Just walk out of the bathroom and somebody would lob a can at you and you had to chuck on it at 6 a.m. That was a good time.
So Grant, I was gonna say I do like your after dark room, the pure red.
Yeah. Actually, the lamp with my blue light, it wasn't working, so I'm now sitting behind my drum kit in my band. We have a red light. in the ceiling. So I thought this would be a really good after dark feel for the boys. Contribute something to the stream here.
Very nice.
Perfect. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Something new.
Yeah, this is my setup. I got, Lucky Logger on the one drum there.
Nice.
That's setup.
All right, since you're all here, I'll ask you, what has been your biggest comeback? Not necessarily by points, but possibly by event that you came back by a huge margin and won.
Mine's got to be the time I played Cam in the final in Nova Scotia. Even though I fell short, I think it's got to be the biggest comeback I ever had.
Legit.
That was a big comeback.
I think, and again, it's probably someone else in the stream. It was my first gold medal win. Was playing against Michael. It wasn't much of a comeback. It was pretty close all the way through, but I bear jack to the ditch for 2 mid game. Kind of turned things around. That's probably the biggest shot. Not really a comeback, but to kind of get the momentum going my way. That was pretty huge.
All of U18s in Winnipeg, I played from 11 down the whole time and came back and won every game until the final that I was up 11-1, and my grandfather said, "This isn't good, he's up." And I lost the final to Jake.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
That sucks.
Jake was hard to beat back in the day.
He's still hard to beat now,
Yeah.
even though he doesn't play. But
Yeah.
Yeah, with Luke's earlier statement, very much one of the underrated players in Canada, Jake Chukne.
100%.
Agree.
Mm-hmm.
him, Dylan, and Cody showed up for Woba last year, and they never miss a step, even though they don't play anymore. But
Oh, it was ridiculous, man. They were still good.
no, you'd think they played every year still.
That was pretty shocking to see, actually. But Mike, what's the biggest comeback you've had?
Biggest comeback I ever had. Trying to even, because I literally will duplicate Grant. First time I ever won provincials, he had me by the balls and I threw a drive, and I think I picked a bowl. I was like 15 years old, and then I went on a huge run and I ended up winning that game. That's one I can think of there. But then the one that just kind of sticks in my mind, a comeback. John and Grant will remember this one. We're playing New Brunswick at Canadian Championships in 2015 as a Forest team, and we literally just had to win the game, and we like clinched the round robin, and we were just playing like absolute garbage all game long. They were leading. They had a pretty substantial lead at one point, but we kind of just kept chipping away. We're playing. And the last end of the game, I think we're tied or we're down one. And Grant throws as the lead his first bowl. We're on a short jack. He threw his first bowl, like I shit you not, 25, 30 feet heavy. So heavy that he's like going into the ditch, but then the carpenter helps.
It was more than that. It was 40 feet
stops
heavy
his
for
bowl.
sure.
Stops his bowl from going over the plinth, and so he's literally on the plinth, and he's like 40 feet heavy, 30 feet heavy, whatever it was. And so it's like, what the hell are you doing, Grant, on the last end? And then they ended up trailing the jack to the ditch, and Grant's bowl was the shot. So
To win. We were tied.
Yeah, I absolutely lost my mind. I was like, okay, Grant, start us off fresh here. We need a good bowl. And he like almost blows my knee out. He throws the bowl so far behind. And I'm just like at a loss for words here. I was like, what the fuck is going on right now?
And then really hard time.
And Grant comes down after the bowl, so he doesn't even apologize to me. This is his exact wording to me. He's like, you know what, Johnny? That bowl's going to change the complexion of this end. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And then all of a sudden, their Skip trots down to the other end and throws a drive and smashes the jack right to Grant. And I look at him and I was just busted my gut laughing because that was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Grant Wilkie, the prophet.
No, I thought
Like 6 years later, we still say that. Change the complexion of the end. That's one of our favorite things in the world.
Since we're talking about them, just sign of some unfortunate things that happen in the game of bowls, or maybe over the course of a tournament. John, I just was curious if you could tell me a little bit about your experience playing against the country of Zimbabwe.
Oh shit. That's one of the biggest comebacks against, I guess. Zimbabwe, we were playing in Shenzhen, China. They rock about 6 seconds the greens out there. All we had to do was just win the match, and we were looking good. We're up 5 coming home, and we somehow dropped a 6 to Zimbabwe, and Keith Roney, God bless his soul, had to bump one of them in for 6 too. He's the skip, and we just couldn't make things work the whole time. Alex shit the bed, I shit the bed. David Kalem was on our team. All of us shit the bed. So I mean, we were all sucking, but all Keith had to do was draw to cut it down, and we would have won. But instead, he actually bumped them in. So instead of going to an extra end, we lost because of it, and it was the most ridiculous loss I've ever seen in my life. Zimbabwe is not a high-powered nation, but they're undefeated against me in international bowls.
And that's something to be said, really.
Well, you should have seen the celebration. I think it was their first international win, to be honest, because they were celebrating and they were talking a great game afterwards, and you couldn't help but be happy for them. But my goodness, that was quite the loss. Oh, someone's dog's home.
Yeah.
That's got to be Frank.
Yes, my wife just moved and my dogs decided to wake up, so.
Sorry, it's the joy of live streaming. You never know what's going to happen, right, guys?
Yeah.
So, did I have any other memes I prepared, Daryl? I prepared, and Malcolm's was loving my memes there. So
You've
what
got
other ones did I
your
prepare?
greasy wick.
Yeah, sure.
Hey.
Speaking of greasy wicks, the king of greasy wicks, I won't name names, but this guy's from Manitoba, and every time, like, he would make 5 or 6 delicate wicks in onto the jack, and then he would talk about how he's like, "Oh, that shot was there," and he's just talking about like how he was playing these shots after they was done. It's like, you literally couldn't draw that up. It was so ridiculous how lucky you got, and that's what drives me nuts most. Like, if you get lucky, you get lucky, but don't pretend that was what you were trying afterwards. Oh yeah, I was gonna wick off 13 different bowls right onto the cat. That's what I was trying right there.
The 18-foot short, 5-foot wide bowl gets wicked off of, travels 18 feet onto the cat.
Yeah.
For a toucher.
That shot was there. That shot was there.
I think my favorite wick shot was Mike was actually coaching Brandon Watson. It was the year in Etobicoke, and it was in the semifinals or something of the under-18s, and I threw my first bowl, and it was like 80 feet wide. And anyways, the end ended up working out where I was down a whole bunch in the head, and I threw an absolute bullet. And with my squirrely Bambi-like delivery, it came out equally as 8 feet wide, and it wicked off the bowl, came straight across the thing, and I ended up getting the respot and scoring a couple points. So that was a pretty good one.
I guess going back to talking about comebacks, Luke, our game in Etobicoke, I think the first end you were lying 4. I was nowhere close. And then I trailed the jack and then scored like 14 straight points.
Yeah, then you crushed me after that. I remember that one.
But then Luke makes a comeback. Huge comeback. He's right on my tail for the second set. I come off the green. Jeff Harding is standing behind the green. And he just tells me to come over. Because I won the first set, I think, like 14-2 or 3. And then I was down a few against Luke in the second set. And he comes over after the game, and he's like, "If I ever see you again, I'll kick your ass so hard." But I'd never met Jeff before. So that was a pretty funny moment at Etobicoke. We had a lot of fun there that year.
Classic Luke, slow start, second half bowler.
You started really strong, but
That'll happen.
It's all right. It's not as bad as how badly Cameron whipped my butt in Nova Scotia. Showed up 5 minutes late on the TV rink. I think we had like a 17-minute game. 21.
Yeah, It was pretty quick.
Fun. It was something.
You decided to play that shit side the whole game, but
Yeah. Well, I never had time to really correct anything. It was just done. It was done already, like before it started. I showed up after trial ends. I had gotten the wrong information from our boy Jake from Bulls Canada.
Shout out Jake Shook next game.
Did you score a point though?
Yeah, I think I scored.
yeah.
Well, you did better than other people do then.
Yeah. On the TV rink. I bet that's in an archive somewhere. You guys can watch it. It was quite a stellar performance.
We'll put it up on the YouTube page for you.
Perfect. You guys can make sure that really gets a lot of views. I'd appreciate it.
Shortest game in history. Here we go. Yeah.
I'll make that in my my next national team bid application.
All right.
Well, no, you gotta reference Cam and John's singles game there. That's probably the shortest game in all of existence. You know, like Cam just couldn't put it together that game. You know.
Yeah.
How old were you, Cam? Like 9?
10 or 11, I don't even know.
We do know that it was only eight ends though, and yeah, with the way I throw the ball as quickly as I do, and Cam throws as quickly as he does, it probably was about a 7-minute match. You know?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it wouldn't have taken long.
Who's got the noise in the background?
Doorbell.
I said, who's at the circus?
So my grandmother gave me a clock 2 years ago that it rings on every hour. So that's what's going on. It's at the hour mark, so it's just going on. Yeah, it's a good reminder.
It's like none of us were reacting. I thought it was a doorbell. Someone just had a really obnoxious doorbell, and I was like,
No, who's on the clock? It hangs on the wall over there, and every other podcast I remembered to mute myself for that, but never did this time.
Just to be factually correct, Grant, in that game you scored 5 points.
Oh,
21-5.
I really brought my game then.
If it tells you how quick it was, the live stream was for 2 hours and 10 minutes, and your game was over at the 45-minute mark.
Started 10 minutes late. So. I didn't get a single trial bowl in. I'm sure of that. I had a full Tim Hortons coffee in my hand, and no bowls on the green.
That was a tough green too, because the drain towel sunk on one side, and it was just dreadful.
Yeah. Was that right when we had that big storm?
That would have been around then.
Yeah.
That drain towel's been screwed up for a while.
Well, boys,
I have a question
ahead,
for
Daryl.
you guys. So all of you have, at one time or another, been part of the national program, been part of the national team, played internationally, and all that stuff. For people, and I'm not going to say young people, but for anybody that's looking to make the nationals, make internationals, do great things in bowls, what's the bit of advice that you could give them that you think that they could take away to really achieve that?
I think if you're starting out, like I got really lucky having a great group of guys to play with has been huge. Just getting to the national level and putting together lots of provincial playdowns. I think that's the key at first. If you're just starting out, getting a good group of guys together that you can kind of develop with together is really helpful. Obviously, having a couple mentors that were kind of in and around the national team when I was starting out was good too. But yeah, a really good team just to help your development and help get you to the next level, so you have the opportunity to play at the higher levels.
It's good advice, actually. I like that.
I think start playing provincials as soon as you can. I mean, don't worry about the result. There's a lot of things you can learn from playing against the best players in your province, and get in there right away.
Yeah, I think what both those guys said is good, and I also think it's just got to be one of those things where it's going to be kind of more of like a slow burn, that it's going to be like instant gratification. You just got to keep on keep on keeping on and never give up. Keep on trucking, never give up, and just keep on bowling. Because eventually, if you got it, you got it, right? So, if you keep on practicing and get better, you got plenty of time to crack that squad and plenty of time to make your mark on the scene.
Yeah, I think that's a smart idea. Just punch above your weight class as much as you can early on. Good to play those people that are at the top of the game, even if they mop the floor with you. You can learn a lot from them, and eventually you get better, and then you'll beat them in the end.
Like Daryl was sort of queuing on the national team stuff. If you're like talking about people even like wanting to achieve towards the international status, for me, I personally would say shy away from focusing only on being a national team person. There's great opportunities in either PBA or open events that they have in other different countries. So like a US Open is a terrific bowls event. I played twice in the Dutch Open over in Holland, and that's a spectacular event where you're playing against elite caliber over there. So if you're ever kind of wanting to really dip your toes into one of those international events and really get yourself kind of wholeheartedly into it, looking into some of these open events that are all over the world, you're still going to play elite caliber players. You're going to get that experience, and you can control your own destiny. So even if you're a great player, sometimes you don't get picked or you don't get to play internationally. So going to a US Open, something like that, you get to control it because you buy your flight, you get yourself there, go and play in the event and have fun.
You get to pick who you play with too, which is always key. Instead of trying to throw stuff against the wall and hope it sticks, you get to pick the players, and you know that you're going to work well together. Because I still think that's one of the reasons why Grant and Mike and Alex and I are always so successful, is we played together literally for 20 years now, and we know everything about each other and what we need to do to get each other moving. Whereas a lot of time you try and pick these all-star teams as Bulls Canada, they're picking guys that aren't gonna, they're just not gonna mesh together. So I think that's another good thing about going to these US Opens. Pick your teammates.
Good.
I just noticed a quick question from the chat. Kathy Greener was curious, how old were all of us when we started playing?
6.
I was in grade 4, so I think I was like 11, something like that, 11, 12. Started playing seriously when I was like 13.
Did you fail a couple times then? Because if you're in grade 4, you should have been 9. You must not be the best in math there, eh?
You know what? Thank you, John. Now I can put on my club form next year when I actually started, because it's beyond me when I started. I wasn't
9 years old.
Family, so I just kind of picked it up as another sport to play, and I think I probably started. My first provincial was like when I was 11 or 12. Got my butt kicked by John Patulli in the finals.
Yeah, I was 7 years old when I started, but I never got like seriously competitive until I was 11.
I was like 17, and I didn't really get competitive until I was 19, so late.
There you go, late bloomer, Daryl.
So Daryl, were they still rolling woods back then, or?
Pretty much.
Well, I think Daryl started playing for Upper Canada was where he got his junior career started, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
And then Keith Roney for Lower Canada.
I was going for that Hudson Bay company, beaver sponsorship.
Hey, you guys had to wear like beaver pelt hats, I remember.
That's right.
You ever seen how like Steve McCarahan has the big chamois? Yeah, Daryl just had like a beaver tail.
Not skinned or nothing. It's just like a whole beaver. He would actually cut a beaver tail off before every match. Just use that. Fresh.
Daryl's first win was against the former Yugoslavian Republic. He's pretty pumped up about that.
Jeez.
You guys are asses.
The worst part is like John and Daryl aren't that far apart in age.
I started playing when I was 3. I already got my 25-year pin now, so yeah, you can do the math how old I am.
Is that one of those you're not a day older than 29, John, or what?
I'm over 30, unfortunately.
My
They're all the same. They're all the same once you hit 30, though.
my mother was pregnant whilst whilst she had me, so she was a lawn bowler before I was born. So she always makes the joke I was born on the green. It's not 100% correct. However, I was around the green. She tells everyone she always used to breastfeed me on the edge of the green. That's my mom for you. But so I've been bowling since I can all honestly remember. If you look at my club sheet like Grant, if I do my math correctly, I would have been 2003 was when I joined my club. So
Yeah, I would have been around there too.
Fair enough. Well, guys, do you have any more questions for the panel tonight? I think I'm all out of them. So what do you guys think?
Did I miss all the outrageous international trip stories?
We talked a few, yeah, but nothing crazy this week. The episode that was planned obviously got kind of mangled, so when that one comes around, we'll share a few more of those.
Yeah.
Oh.
We'll have to have you guys back on for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe Van can show up on time next time.
Hey, I was evaluating small children in hospital today, so.
All right.
Cameron will get you one of those clocks that'll ring every hour, so that you can make sure you get there on time.
One of those time next week, Cam.
All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for joining us today on the Canadian Bowler After Dark. It's always a pleasure talking to friends and new people on the show. So just remember to everybody that's watching, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You know where to find us on the YouTube page. Make sure you share this out to all your friends and everything else. And I guess take care, guys.
Thanks, Luke.
Night.
Thanks, Grant.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.